right there. Listen, I think a lot of times while we're sitting out here talking, we kind of skip around some major truths. Some things, man, are just sad to think about, or even scary or fearful to think about. Um, a lot of the information because of the internet and us being able to talk to people all around the world, listen to all kind of history, all kind of stories. A lot of these stories have a lot of things in common. A great flood back in the day. A lot of people see where great civilizations were started 12,000 years ago, all during times like a build up to a great civilization, maybe have some global energy source, and then boom, something wipes it out. We start from the Stone Age and build back up. And every time it's something different. Every time it has all the same traits of mankind. That's for damn sure. Slavery, money, um, working against the land, not coexisting with the planet. Every time we build big cities and have global power supplies, and somebody's rich and somebody's a king and somebody's a slave and somebody dies, and that seems to be the story of mankind. But we've learned good bits and pieces of these stories from people all over, and some of them have pointed to a great flood at one time, even with stories of how developed and how wicked we had gotten, how maybe overpopulated we gotten. Sure sounded like we wasn't coexisting with the planet or being natural anymore. And somehow, something happened, whether it was natural or it was the creator. Um, Come to find out, it was the sun, and the sun hits the earth in a certain way. Magnetosphere, our poles shift every so often. These things come around in cycles, and a lot of these cycles cycle into each other. And one period is around every 12,000 years. So you ever notice that's about how old they say the pyramids are, and that's also when they say it was the end of the last ice age. So think about that. I mean, we were just frozen in hardly any people, and then all of a sudden there were supposed to be millions of people and millions of slaves to build the pyramids, and all these things we can't build today were built then, and all these things around the world, monoliths, um, the Aztec temples, the Mayans, the Hopi Indians, all the things that were here in North America that they tore down, all the cities, the great cities that the pre-apocalypse Indians before they first got taken out by a big disease-ridden country, it was on their own, was about 5,000 years ago. The what you see as the North American Indian today, the Native American here, is like the post-apocalyptic Indian. That's the one you see wearing the loincloth and riding bareback and living in the teepee. Before then, they had great cities. Everybody, there's always been this happened before, and here we are again now. Look how technologically advanced we are, man. I'm sitting here talking to you right here on the computer when my hotspot's working and the clouds ain't bad. And but you see what I'm saying? Our life, I mean, we get food instantly from a little oven, using somebody's technology of a death ray, the microwave oven. We're still riding around on the same gasoline engine for about the last 125 years that was invented to run on hemp fuel. So that one kind of makes me scratch my head right there. But we got this little device we can talk in. But all these things, high tech, we talk around the world. We're sending things out into space. They're looking at Mars to see what happened, maybe to figure out what's going to happen here. But we also, realistically, we see them spray in the skies, and the reason why we don't bicker or argue about it no more is because nobody knows what to say anymore. It was actually nice when we had some debunkers. I was actually hoping somebody could find a legitimate reason, just pollution, dumping waste or something. I don't know, whatever they were doing. But now we found out that they actually came out and said they are shielding back solar radiation to protect their electrical grid, keep planes from falling out of the sky, keep satellites from falling out of the sky. We sure do see a lot of weird lights in the sky, and satellites coming down, forced down during meteor showers. So they kind of look like a shooting star, but we just saw something recent. SpaceX has been sending up dozens of rockets. It's like they got a plan B up there, but even the sun, by the way, I want y'all to think about this. And Ben Davison points this out. He's a suspicious observer. He's the guy that keeps all that together. And a good ray blast from the sun ain't going to help anything in outer space. It'd be like fried astronauts. It'd be 5,000 fried rich people mummies up there. But they also pointed out that there's $21 trillion missing, y'all. Here's why I ask you to follow the money. Here's where, if you're going to look at everything you see, look at the little tidbits, the reality tidbits they give you out. $21 trillion of their printed money is coming and going out of the government, and they can't account for it. And that's what they're trying to say now, and being pointed this out. But that's a lot of money to be spent and going through HUD, which is housing. Now we come to find out that these billionaires and these super rich elite that run the world would actually have to go deeper inside of this world, have bunkers. We see where a lot of rich people were buying up property in Tanzania, Africa, along the equator. They're going to want to stay in areas where any kind of prediction of anything. And that's the other thing. After over 50 years of, I guess it was around 50, because it was put out in 1966. There was a book put out by a weird name guy, like Chad Thomas or something like that. And it was called the Adam and Eve story. And it was basically telling how the sun was going to hit our earth and cause a tectonic plate crack or shift, to where there was going to be a major wave and a major tsunami that really even came over North America. I think the last safe places around would have been around Australia, where it seems the oldest continent, and it always seems to come back there with all the weird birds and critters and make everything around the world mixed up right there in Australia. And but it's happened before. So what can we say? It's on a cycle, and we're at that time period of that cycle. All of this is more real than anything, and you'll read in the Bible about angry gods or God of the Hebrews getting mad and flooding the earth from wicked people. No, we live on a very volatile planet, but she is on a very, very meticulous cycle. It's not in our years. It's not how much even mankind lives. Matter of fact, you could actually say mankind has lived only through a couple of these with her. We ain't been around that long, and do it every 12,000 years. Maybe we've seen 4 or 5 of them. Who knows? Who knows how they really count time? Who really knows how they count how we've been on this planet? All we know is what we're going through right now. And what we're going through right now is, you see it. They're spraying the skies. They manipulate the weather. They've even used the weather for warfare. And if you ever notice during hurricane season, all of a sudden there's some stink between the U.S. and China. And all of a sudden they're having typhoons at the same time that we're having hurricanes. And these hurricanes just move and look like they're directed, and they cause billions of dollars in damage, economic damage. And World War III was going to be a banker's war, remember? World War II was to pick which side you were going to have, and World War III was just to see who's going to get all the money. Well, it's us versus the BRICS nations for whatever's left, because here's the clincher to all of y'all. Here's the one thing we all fail to talk about. Here's the one thing we all fail to remember or really speak of out loud. They know when it's coming. You goddamn right they do. Look at their bunkers in Colorado. Look at everything they got to withstand what? Some type of tidal wave or large sediment movement over the crust that are already there. They've already looked at old models of the past. The CIA banned that book, y'all. That's what I was bringing up earlier. They banned it back in 1966. These men were talking about this in 1958. 1960, 1962, all during this time. They knew that this was coming. This is why the oil companies have been able to lie to you about wanting oil and fossil fuel. Hell, maybe they're burning it because that's been putting it off. I have no idea. That's some people think oil is actually some kind of sludge caused from the plates shifting against each other so hard. Who knows? Maybe they put things off. Yellowstone should have been done blue. Some things that happen every seemingly 60,000 years have been put off to 70, 75,000 years. Maybe we've already been through them and they didn't tell us. We were just in a mini ice age back in the 1800s, and then we had the Carrington event. Remember when an X-20, maybe even X-40 solar flare hit the Earth and busted through, but the only thing electrical we had was the telegraph lines, but it burned all them down and even killed operators. But if everybody would have had electricity, if the world grid, all the computer systems, if they had everything we had today, and a Carrington event happens, bye. And the reset on it ain't like resetting the button on your when the power goes out at the house and you got to go reset all the clocks and all that kind of stuff. It ain't resetting like that. You're talking about just one event would be luckily having probably places of mass starvation fixed up and have something going. Would probably be within 5 to 8 months. So right around a half a year. It'd be a year before there'd even be any kind of monetary system or us even maybe that's a good time for we the people to take over after the collapse and after another solar flare hits and knocks out this grid, and it's to each his own, and the masses have to take care of the masses. Maybe we'll see how to act in and make something new. But you see what I'm getting at? This is not something you go out and tell the general public. There have been weathermen that have said things out loud on TV. They've been taken off. Look at all the newscasters that said anything about paying attention to the sun, paying attention to the earthquakes, pay attention to what the rich are doing. That's all. I'm always telling you to follow the money and do the math. So follow the money on the 21 trillion they can't find. The reason they can't find it is because it's spent, and it's spent in ways that they would have to show you. I mean, you look at these giant bunkers, these places they have to escape, some giant catastrophe that would affect the whole planet. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. When and the timeline, that's all a big question. But all the little pieces to the puzzle that we have been thrown out there in kind of ways where they want you to read something, they want you to believe this, or they want you to see that, when really it could be something else. I get tired of these magician motherfucker New World Order jackasses that want to make. They just want to look. They're going to fleece us until this system is gone. They, like I said, they have a plan B. That they probably got an early warning system and a late warning system on this. They know what the hell's going on. Now, I'm sitting here and I'm talking about some things that ain't futuristic anymore. It's happening right in our face. People are being poisoned by their own water. Nothing's being done about anything of importance. We're all following bullshit bread and circus puppet shows while we eat poor food, and we still continue to drink poor water. We keep dumbing down ourselves by not being real about things. And the real thing is, most of this we could either get through or even figure out another way. And the reason why I say this, and you're going to think I'm crazy, that I think somebody, a normal person out there, will figure out another way, is because when you listen to the original story from the ancient Sumerians about the Anunnaki and Enki and Enlil, Enki wasn't the good guy that you think. He wanted to make a slave race to mine gold. And I see the human beings on this world, a slave race that mines gold. And look at what we do. We work for a paycheck. We work for something. We're still mining gold, literally. And we rape the earth for resources, for energy that's free on a planet that's free to live on. So we're all fooled into this. But the thing is, back then their atmosphere was falling apart, and they were needing the gold to repair their atmosphere. And I see that our atmosphere is falling apart now. And also, it was like the people that really knew what was going on with the destruction of Nibiru, which was their planet, and what was going to happen on Earth, was they knew how to stop it. They knew how to stop the flood. So just to kill Enki's first slaves that had been mating with fallen angels, or actually, the Anunnaki were coming down, that's what they call it, but some people say it was 200 fallen angels, and they came down and mated with beautiful earth women and had the Nephilim, and everything was wicked, and they know what to do. So one religion says God flooded the earth for 40 days and 40 nights and gave Noah all this and put it in this little old boat. Some people think it was Anunnaki just kept some DNA and allowed everything to be wiped out naturally when they could have stopped it. So that's the part of their religion and that original story of how we're here, why we're here. That happens to be about 12,000 years old, by the way. And the Black Knight satellite's still up there floating around Earth in a north-south pole trajectory where it sees everything, and it's still putting out a frequency, and all these things, these stories come down to this one that they could have stopped it. We gotten wicked, or are they looking at us like that, or is there a God, or whatever? Who knows? What they do know is there's a 12,000 year cycle, and it's pretty much one that's going to bump the earth or cause some kind of earthquake that is going to cause major catastrophes. This has been predicted for decades upon decades, even centuries, by some men have predicted this. Nobody knows when. It's kind of like when Jesus comes back the second time. He said, "I'm gonna come like a thief in the night. No man will know the time or the day." Well, nobody really knows the time, but we do have indicators. People a lot smarter than us, like Ben Davidson and his crew over there at Suspicious Observers, a lot of NASA scientists that broke away from NASA and want to speak the truth and look for real solutions to what's coming up on us. They're paying all attention to this, y'all. But the best thing we can do right now is unite as brothers and sisters. This is why I speak of unity. This is why I talk about putting positive energy back into our planet. Nothing else is working anyway, by the way. I'm gonna just say it like that. Ain't nothing else anybody doing working. I still see species dying out every day. I still see people with lesions on their skin and sick from drinking fracked out water and poison water from coal sludge being dumped in their water supplies, and that's or not even having a water supply like up in Flint, Michigan, or all around us everywhere. We can't go nowhere without seeing some form of forced sickness on us. We got to drink water. We got to have food, and there's all of these people, and somehow so many of y'all wound up in cities, and I wish you hadn't. About 87% of y'all are in cities, and that's just something to think about. Bring back small town America. Make wells for your own self to get water from the earth, not from the man. I mean, I don't know what to say, but whatever's coming is coming, and them keeping us divided, them playing the last cards they got on this big house of cards that's about to all either get flooded out or burn up or whatever. It's all about to fall. The empire has been sold. It's down to nothing. The BRICS nations are going to win out. You're going to see slave nations like Brazil being turned into a slave nation. India already is a slave nation. Parts of the Soviet Union will be slave nations, and another part will be the free people of the world. And the same with China. China will be split, and a little over a billion will be slaves, manufacturing slaves, and the rest of them will be the ones that make it all work and play the new military guys and the new bankers of the world. So you got to see what's coming up. The power play, the power shift. Maybe it's planned. Maybe the New World Order already knows who they're going to use. Maybe they're going to watch and watch Russia and China battle it out with America and whatever's left of Americans or our allies. Maybe we already got somebody that's broken it up for us, and that's why they're trying to break up NATO. Maybe that's why we don't have a friend in the world right now. You know, America. We're just sitting ducks for some other superpower to pick us off. We're the weakest we ever been with some clown ass bullshit going on. Even if that puppet show was real, they made it look so weak, y'all. They made it look like, man, we could just come over here with a cartoon character and take over the United States. They wouldn't even need an army. All they need is a bunch of domino pizza coupons and some bonbons and put y'all something good on TV. Everybody go to sleep in a damn refined sugar coma. I mean, you already set up to fail. You hear me, America? And I thought we was the fucking underdogs. I thought we was all the dogs. We were the dogs in the wars. We're called the dogs everywhere else. Well, I don't see why we ain't calling ourselves the dogs right now and bunking on these motherfuckers. This is our country, y'all. And no matter what's coming from the sun, no matter what's coming up in our future with a financial collapse, it's our country and our right to know. And guess what? It's our right as the people to be informed so we, the people, can decide on the fate of we, the people. I'm about tired of rich people that can run into a bunker or somebody that's a congressman and gets free medical for the rest of their life and is healthy as hell because they get to eat good food. God damn them making decisions on my life. I want somebody named Leroy Jenkins up there or some good old boys from the Appalachian Mountains or some hippies from fucking California or some mushroom growers from fucking Washington State or whatever. I want a mixture of Americans making decisions on what goes on with us, America. I think we should have the scientific data that's going on and given out to other countries and given to governments. Well, that's our government. They got powerful. We sat here and we fell asleep, and then we wake up one day and they're like standing over us like some big warrior giant force to be reckoned with. When that's our military, that's our leadership, that's our president, that's our Congress, that's our Senate, that's our judicial system. We should be the ones massing up and sending millions and hundreds of millions of letters or however you would do it. Maybe standing in front of them, maybe turning our backs on them. Because that's all we can do right now is turn our backs on them and live what little bit of lives we got left, y'all. We can still work, we can still barter, we can still have money, we can still have everything we got without sinking it all into a military that has or a government that has the whole world hating us at the time the whole world's going to be needing each other. Ain't that funny? We're just a resource state. If you'll pay attention, that the Marcellus Shale going under the Appalachian Mountains, that's been sold to China. You don't get that? It's 3 miles under the ground. How you think they're going to get it without digging up all that land? How you think you're going to get it without putting a fracking rig in people's backyards? How you think they're going to get it down there to the Gulf of Mexico to their ships without the pipelines? See what the hell's they done? The whole Southeast, all the way from Houston, Texas. Let's just make a big square of it. Houston, Texas, all the way up to Canada, straight through the Dakotas, all the way across the northern border states, going out to the East Coast and coming all the way down the north south East Coast right there, and all through the South. They're going all through Dixie, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Go out there. They say, well, they're giving the Yankees gas. Well, guess what? It ain't all gas. Some of it's their stuff coming back down to their ships. It don't mean just because they trying to hide it, don't mean ain't nobody paying attention to it. So there's some serious business going on right now. It's more serious, I feel like, than anything personal that we could have in our lives right now. I think we really need to be paying attention to any shift in the world, anything, any damage that could be done, or if it's even damage to us humans and what's coming from the sun or our weakening magnetosphere. All these things are public knowledge, public knowledge. Everything about our sun and how it's affecting us right now, how the smallest of a solar flare right now could just, and has been, stopping even air traffic. Look how Europe shuts down their airlines all the time. They got, remember all the lost planes? Them planes wasn't lost. All them missing planes, they didn't go missing. All their electronics got burnt out because they were up too high. The one of the most dangerous jobs for just getting radiation poisoning is working with the airline industry. And the worst thing you can do right now is fly high altitude. The magnetosphere is completely weak, y'all. You need to see where you're flying and how it affects your health and everything. So I'm not trying to stop anybody from going anywhere or putting any fear. That's my point. Globally, if there's a shutdown, well, we're not even going to know what anybody else is doing anywhere else. I don't know how quickly ham radios or any of that stuff could be picked up. I don't know if there'd be any kind of communication. I don't look for worst case scenarios. I look for what you're going to need day by day. And I want you to think about this. What you going to do when there ain't no Winn-Dixie? What you gonna do when there ain't no McDonald's 99-cent burger? What you gonna do when there ain't no bank to go to get something from? What are you gonna do when there ain't no money to barter with? What can you barter with? What is barter? You know, how do I get along in an anarchist type environment, which only means lack of government? Because it will be small pockets of people that take care of their own, that will decide if their area is safe enough for you to come in, or you whatever. It'll be true, real community and tribes then, and those tribes are going to have to come together in bigger ways to keep everything going. Nobody has the best of everything, but some places are better than others. And listen, from the information and the things that's happened from the past that we can see in the King James Bible and anything you want to call a historical document, a giant flood has already wiped out this earth one time, but apparently it left enough to keep going on, because here we are. So, I mean, you can't, if you go, depending on what story, the story was still told. The story was still told. But the facts and the little bits and tidbits of information that we've been getting lately point to the fact that this happened at least maybe about 12,000 years ago. At the same time, Egypt became this empire out of nowhere, and the Aztec temples and the Mayan temples were built, and these monoliths were put up. This is also at the same time that was at the end of an ice age. Where we're going, and we had a little mini ice age here back in the 1800s. So we could just be having this normal little mini ice age, and a lot of time frames on some of this, especially a giant Earth catastrophe, like just the oceans spilling over the land in a big kind of way. Maybe should have happened like 2,000 years ago, and maybe they did. Maybe we just started back from 2,000 years ago. We're only told what they tell us, but according to some, they said like that's already happened, and it happens every 5,000 years. So we could be 3,000 years away from it. The thing is, this information that whatever the United States government or any world government out there or any entity on this planet that has information to save this planet, or at least to show us another way to live, to back down off the system. Hey, we reached this peak, and now the universe ain't going to let us live like this. So how do we wean down? How do we live different? How do we live in the new things coming up? How do we start dealing with the way the sun is now, and how it burns us? And how do we, all these things, how do we deal with it? How do we clean our water good enough to drink? What's better population goals for us as we the people to decide? Do we need to maybe have a few less babies, but keep good baby cycles going? What's all these new things we need to figure out? Because it's about gone, y'all. I'm gonna listen to you. I never be no doomsdayer, And I never believe in end of the earth, because the earth will always be here. No matter if it looks like Mars, maybe if we make it look like Mars, like the Martians did to Mars, or whatever that story is too, it's still going to be here. And but I think what keeps it Mother Earth, what gives her a spirit, is the fact that the Creator has put life on this rock. I believe in that with all my heart, and I believe that we were supposed to be stewards for this, and somehow we became the consumers of it. And it's not all our fault, but once we realized that we were brainwashed into being consumers and locusts, we should have backed away. We should have fought back. We should have stopped it. We should have not been a part of it and not done the easy thing, which was go along with it. So where that's no blame, and nothing was going to stop the stuff from the sun anyway. If we had lived in a nicer society and a more trusting global community, somebody could have figured out what to do with what's coming at us. Um, it wouldn't have been left up to some old people that spend a lot of old money and on a lot of old bad ideas like the gasoline engine and gasoline and fossil fuels and all this other stuff. We live a lot of lies and we know better, but now it's really gotten to a point where that don't matter. That really don't matter. Our population statistics by groups that not even American that do this for the whole globe have got our population way down, at least a 2/3 gone. You see things going on around you. Now they're becoming a part of your life. You're buying water more and more every day. The food that sometimes you eat don't even look like real food anymore. Um, and we're also seeing the wildfires, the way the earth is changing, and then they politicize it. See, that's what's crazy, and that's what's kept a lot of information, good energy, the energy I'm fucking talking about, from being talked about. I think some of these more smarter people than us, if they were really smarter than us, they would learn to talk to each other and not politicize this and said, oh, well, I don't believe in it because this guy says it's not true, or I don't believe. Nobody's wanting to look at the evidence and see that we're actually in a global cooling, and the chemtrails and all are causing a global warming in places, and that they're actually manipulating the weather. And the manipulation of the weather alone is going to cause some shifts on this planet that ain't natural. I mean, it works in a way they're not familiar with because it's a planet. It's volatile. It's always different. They go with statistics. They go with trends. They go with the way things go this season and next season. They try to mix it up. And now look at how they got series of hurricanes every year that just come across the Atlantic. It's like they're playing with it. And then at the same time in China, it'll be a series of typhoons coming at China. It's been that way for the last 4 or 5 years. And the first time China really got on to us hard was way back with Katrina in the Bush years. That's how China proved what they could do and how much money they could cost. That with Katrina was China's baby. And we put one back on them, and you didn't hear a whole bunch about them. But it was hundreds of billions of dollars of damage. It went straight to an industrial area of China and just wiped it out. Just went there and just actually stopped and moved around in a circle. And guess what? It was named the same thing, except just in Asia. Oh Lord, I never can remember what they actually speak over there, but in Chinese, man something anyway. And it was the same name as our hurricane over here, and it was some kind of God thing, God killing something thing, angel of death thing. It was some kind of same name thing. Mandarin and English had the same meaning. So it's the same thing on the same day. So they battle back and forth because they got toys like that to play with, but they're also playing with it because they've learned to manipulate the magnetosphere. They've learned to manipulate our atmosphere. All the things that Nikola Tesla was going to use for good, for giving us free electricity, inventing Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi was been invented in the late 1800s, y'all. They could have been using it for electricity or any other source, any other kind of signal source they've been wanting to. But now we use it for this cell phone, and they use it to listen in and even turn people crazy. They can put frequencies on you to make you crazy, make you sad, make you angry. That's how they were making people in the Iraq war come out of their villages and fight back, just putting in frequencies to make them paranoid and crazy. That's, they could do that to a city and cause mass panic, and they have done it at certain those big meetings, those G20 summits and G8 summits, where too many people come up and they get them all confused with sound and frequency. The point is, the fear of it is one thing. You can look at it, you can say, wow, man, I really ain't got a lot to look forward to, no telling what. Or you can look at it like, hey, I want to know more about this because it could be 20 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. It could be 100 years from now. It could even be 1,000 years from now. And according to some people that are smarter than us, it could even be never happen that we've actually gotten through a couple of them. Here's some which should have been bad times, and maybe we got another 10,000 years till the next cycle comes up. But we got to get through this one. There are too many of us living off this system the way it is. It's a locust consumer system. It ain't just the USA. It's what corporations have spread across the world. They just buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell till they just got us living at the same thing. Everything we got is cheap. It's in a plastic bottle. It's in an aluminum can. It's in something that we don't need. That's bad for us, and we can't even get clean water now. That's the clicker, y'all. And then they tell you not to collect your rainwater and tell you not to do this and that and things that when you want to get off the grid, the electrical grid or the water grid or the natural gas grid, they get in the ass. So you can look at it for what you want to. The key to getting through this is our unity. It's looking at each other. Once again, those of us that actually stop and just say, hey, I'm going to quit thinking like this and I'm going to start thinking like this. I'm going to try to feel somebody. I'm going to look at everybody around me in their life and see that they're just like me, that everybody's having just the same amount of problems, same amount of good times, same amount of bad times, same amount of windfalls, same amount of downfalls. We all basically got about the same life. And because we've been looking with these eyes at these fake lives, we've been distracted. We've been distracted and we're not paying attention to each other. We're not paying attention to events that are happening right before us, that have already happened right behind us, and that are coming up, and we need to pay attention to. And one of them is we may really be having to help each other outside of any other way that you've ever known of living. And maybe if there were enough people that were still around from the 1930s, maybe that were born in the 1920s that were still around that could talk. They tell you about the Great Depression. And I heard about it from my grandma, and it was rough. And but everybody pulled together that could, and there wasn't that many starving people in most small towns and small communities that knew how to take care of each other and live with each other. That was also another time period that was some bad solar activity, and that wasn't ever taken into consideration, the drought and what happened over here in North America. So some things happen with this Mother Earth, y'all, because let me tell you something. Take it from a man that loves Mother Earth more than anything, but also knows that she is the most volatile, crazy, emotional, wild thing, everything you expect from the female. You know, life giver, and she can be the life taker. And it's how we coexist with her. It's how we try to figure out. Even how we try to figure out how to naturally, like these rich people bunkering down and getting underground. Maybe there's some answers to some of this, and maybe there's some things we're just going to have to accept. But they would, and I can understand this, and I think you can too. They could actually take and tell us things, and it would cause mass panic. And I can see where even a smart leader or a smart government or a smart system would say, hey, maybe we need to tell them or work it in, but maybe not give it to them all at one time. Give it to them like baby steps and then walk into it and tell them what's really going to happen. I can see where that would be smart, but that's not fair and that's not human. And that's also saying that 8 billion people may not, somewhere around 8 billion people, somebody, if this was known globally, what's coming up, wouldn't have some kind of solution or maybe some idea or something, anything other than what they're doing by spraying the sky and digging bunkers and using our money to do it and hiding all that. And that money loss, that's where it goes. It goes to chemtrails and fucking digging bunkers. That's where that money goes. And they know it, and you know it, and they started in the 90s. The first time they brought this up it was $2.3 trillion. $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon. And on September 10th, 2001, the day before September 11th, Donald Rumsfeld gets on the TV and he's like, oh, we're not in the Pentagon and we can't figure out where we misplaced $2.3 trillion. We're trying to figure it out. Well, the information on where that $2.3 trillion went was all in Building 7. Building 7 was one of the buildings that fell the next day after them saying this, and nobody ever bringing it back up for over a decade. When it got up to $8.5 trillion, a couple of years ago, they were saying it was $8.5 trillion. Nobody wants to question that the information to where this money was going was all over in Building 7, and that the IRS and the FBI and the CIA were all looking into that, and they all had offices over there as well. Listen, they know what's coming up. They had to bring a lot of fear to a lot of people. They had to really take a big part of the American dream and just rip it out. We are some of the best group thinkers in the world, but we're also some of the best individuals that have led some of the best and most brilliant rebellions against governments that thought they were doing the best thing, whether it be war, whether it be the way they take over the banks, whether it be how they tax us, whether how they try to lead us and get out of hand. But this time, it's more about what they know is going to happen with this planet. It's more about what they know that's coming down the pike at us, that the planet's going to do naturally, that none of us can stop, and how maybe we could if we all knew. Uh, like I said, I can understand you not them not telling us, but it just sucks that we got to figure things out, and that a lot of people are dying necessarily when some of the first parts of it come in. That's what's really a shame. It's like they expect big parts of populations to drop off because they can't survive the first couple of waves of, say, lack of water or really bad lack of food, poor breathing air. Can't go outside because of the sun rays being too brilliant. So I want to let you know something. You don't think those sun rays are different than when I was a kid? When I was a kid, people used to go to Florida and they put copper tone oil, like banana oil and coconut oil. They put coconut oil all over their body. They'd have a half inch of that thick hanging on them. They could walk around, be dripping, and they could get out in the sun all day and they would literally turn brown, not red, not sunburned. In the late 80s and then into the 90s, you start seeing people starting to get sunburned. And then, man, by the time the mid 90s and the late 90s came around, they were selling SPF this, and people were going out there. They didn't wear no white makeup like my brother Ian Barber wears, that old zinc oxide. They didn't wear that anymore, man. They covered their whole body now with SPF 40, man. And so look at just that alone. The sun used to be yellow, and now it's fluorescent from what they're doing to the sky. And now you know kind of why they're doing that to the sky. They're trying to block back things that would destroy their grid or maybe even destroy our Earth. But that's why they need to talk to us about it. So since they ain't, I think it's time that we got real about it and really talked about why our brotherhood and our unity communities, small communities, are so important. I mean, you could literally be in an area where that gets split and, one city is gone, but one community over here on one side and one community over there, maybe one survive and one don't. But I hope it ain't something like that. But it sure does look that way from our past. We cannot look at our geological past and even our own biological being, where we came from. How many times these books get rewritten? Why do things keep changing? Like deja vu, this story, I heard this from before, and I heard it before here, before there, and before there. Over 12,000 years, the same story told 4 or 5 different times. And it's a control story, and it's also a story of our beginnings, which was to mine gold, which was to repair an atmosphere, and which was wiped out by a flood because of wickedness. So you look at it like you want to. I'm going to look at this story like I want to. I'm just telling you that I think we should all be getting along a lot more, knowing that any day anything could happen. And sure, Earth could stop and 1,000-mile-an-hour wind hits you wherever. If you're on the equator, I guess it'd be 1,000 miles. Whatever happens to us, we might not be there in physical form. We might just be there in spiritual form, and that'd be a good time to meet and have a hug, wouldn't it? In spiritual form, and we'd be able to drop all this stuff our eyes and our brains been conditioned to see. That's for sure. But I want y'all to think about that and really think about why they suppress just solar data, or you look at SOHO satellite or any of the NASA satellites, and sometimes they take time out of it. The news feeds back from the Mars rover, even if it's there for real or not. This thing's been going on for years after it was supposed to shut down, but man, they say the wind's blowing the dust off the solar panel covers. And I saw a shadow of somebody standing behind it one day, but uh, they even show a planet that was marred by war, and some of those feeds get stopped and they get edited, and a lot of things get whited over on our own Google Earth and our Google Mars and the things that we're told to get information from. So I understand well, I'm getting at where a lot of the paranoia comes from, but we got to take what information we can get and then apply it to what we heard, the stories from the past. This has happened before. There's been very brilliant men that have studied our constellations and have studied our planet, and this is all well documented. It just ain't well documented for us. We the people in order to keep us dumbed down. They keep the information, so we got to figure some things out on our own. I highly suggest that you watch and keep up with Ben Davison of Suspicious Observers on YouTube. Maybe even get in with his private group. They have a very good group of people, just tens of thousands, hundred, over hundred, a couple 100,000 now, I believe, maybe even more. It should be more. Man, he puts out nothing but data, not opinions, not this, not that. Data for you to go look at and decide, and trends from the past, not just from what the weatherman said last week on the Weather Channel. So think about that and look close into your heart. Uh, are you ready for certain things? Do you want to be? Would it just be better if we were just took out by some solar wind and that's the way we went? I don't think so, but it is a reason to think about living every day and living like you want to, and appreciating that freedom. And it's why I appreciate my freedom and just to be able to see things now and be happy that I made it to 54 and that I have had a wonderful life. And I think we're all gonna have plenty of time, to be honest with you. But I want to be prepared for a different way of living. And all indicators, financial, social, and geological, show that we're fixing to face a different way of living, whether you like it or not. We got to get along. So I love you, brother, just like you love yourself, and we can all love this planet and hopefully get along with her when she shows her ass. Think about that. I love you. Peace. And by all means, don't live in fear. Live in knowledge.